On this episode of Soul's Quest podcast, Omar and I will discuss Martin Scorsese's movie, Silence, as it relates to a crisis of faith. Stay tuned. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Have a good day?
Yeah. It's been a good day today.
Yeah. I like your shirt.
Oh.
You haven't worn that one in a while.
No, I have not actually. I haven't worn this in a while.
It's so funny. We're both wearing black.
Always been on black.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about today?
So I figured, since we talked about a crisis of faith yesterday, right?
Yes.
I think it was really cool because I've been wanting to talk about this movie for a while. And when I was creating the episode for A Crisis of Faith, I thought about this movie,
right.
Silence. And I thought that...
Great movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's an excellent movie. It's really powerful.
Yeah.
To me, right, I like Scorsese movies. Obviously, Goodfellas, everybody likes Goodfellas. But one of the movies that he really... I think that's kind of underrated. I love this movie. It's called The Last Temptation of Christ.
Oh yeah, that was a great movie.
To me, it's like one of the best movies I've seen. But again, to each their own. But I just love that theme of sacrifice and that inner turmoil. And Scorsese does a good job on that.
He's pretty good at Wolf of Wall Street. He's pretty good with his movies.
Yeah,
I know it's kind of it was good. You know, I mean.
Yeah,
it's not for everybody, but
no, it's not. I mean, I really enjoy that. He really captures in The Last Temptation of Christ. He really captures what I feel is that inner turmoil that someone like Christ felt.
Yeah, you saw the it's almost like the visceral stuff.
That spending the nights in the desert part. I always talk about that part, and I think visually, like Scorsese did such a great job at depicting that emotional turmoil, the twisting of the body. Willem Dafoe, I mean, was amazing in that stuff. The mental aspect of it all. To me, it was. It's a movie that it's like Gladiator. If it comes on TV, I'm watching it. It doesn't come on TV because it's pretty controversial. But I think that it really depicts that human aspect of that turmoil of what the hero's quest kind of looks like. Yeah. To me, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
So then for Silence, because that's what we're talking about, what can you give us a little bit of like an overview of what the movie
You saw the movie too. We could talk about it.
I did. Well, okay, so the movie starts out with... And you can correct me if I'm wrong because my memory's not as whatever. But I believe it started out with, it's basically a movie about these two priests, right? 17th century priests that go on this mission to find Father Ferreira. Ferreira, excuse me.
Yeah.
That's how you say it. Anyway, sorry. So Ferreira. And
it is our last name, but whatever.
It is our last name, but no relation. And so Father Ferreira is played by
Liam Neeson.
Who is I love him. Taken. I love that movie. Anyway, totally not in this caliber, but it was a good movie. But they start out the movie with Ferreira witnessing the torture of some of the people that he had led into Christianity.
Yeah,
and
in Japan.
And basically the movie is about that, how Japan is not accepting of the Christian faith. And so they have to kind of have this they do it a hidden sort of bringing the people to Christianity. And
exactly, yeah.
Christianity.
And then Ferreira apostatized.
Yes,
which means he denounced the faith.
Right. And he did that for the people.
Exactly, yeah. So when he did that, so for instance, Rodrigues, who is played by Garfield, and Francisco Garupe, who's by Adam Driver, they're
the two priests.
Ferreira was their mentor,
right. And
they're the ones the one that brought them into the faith. So when they take this journey up to Japan to find out if this is actually true. I mean, you think about it. This is that
they couldn't believe that he had
number one
apostatized. Yeah, they couldn't believe that he had actually denounced or left his religion.
Exactly, left religion. And at that time, the communication was so, not as easy as now. So they had to travel over there, and then they had to investigate and all this stuff. And the reason why I really like this movie is because it really goes into kind of like the heart of something that happens quite often. It's like, and primarily in the past, it's like you go places to indoctrinate people in your religion, spreading the word and all that stuff. And I think
like missionaries, you mean?
Like missionaries, and again, it's like, this is the very Christian thing of go out there and spread the word of the gospel and all this stuff. Is a very Christian, particularly Christian tradition of being able to spread that. And I think that in the movie, there's a depiction of the clash of cultures, right? So you have the Japanese culture, who's a very ancient culture in which you have already a really strong a spiritual and religious foundation, very ritualistic in nature. So you have a mixture of Zen Buddhism, but you also have Shinto, which is a very Japanese religion, and they have their certain belief system. They're and they're very set in their cultural and in the way that their culture and their religion kind of like intermingles. And there also is a time of transition in Japan in which you have a lot of Western countries like Portugal, the French, the English, vying for positioning in the economic upbringing of Japan. So you have that conflict, right, of economics and religion going into a new place, Right. So this begins the conflict, right? So
that sets the stage.
That kind of sets the stage for it, right? So Christianity has been outlawed at this time,
right?
And the people that practice it, they practice it in on the down low,
right?
Like it's
hidden.
It's right. and those who proclaim it, they get persecuted.
Right. Not just, they're like tortured.
Yes.
Burned at the stake.
Yes.
Like it's in the movie, at least. I mean, that was pretty gruesome.
Yeah. And they are meant to deny their religion whatsoever. And some people, like Ferreira, go in that way, but many kind of like lost their lives because their faith, right. And not so much them. And this is the part that to me that is interesting, and we're going to get into that aspect of the movie, right? Because it is not so much that the foreigners die by their beliefs. The issue kind of like started arising really when you start seeing all these native innocent people, the local Japanese people, being tortured, being killed for the sake of this Christian idea,
right?
And what the Japanese were asking is like, if you denounce your religion, those people will live.
Right?
They'll live.
Right.
We're not going to kill them if you denounce your religion, right. And telling them that it's all a hoax.
It's like that utilitarianism thing.
Yes.
What do you do for the masses?
Exactly. So, but they know, this is my faith and I believe it. Okay, well, we're going to kill them or we're going to torture you.
Right.
And that's kind of like how it was.
He made them watch those be tortured. So it was almost that burden of knowing that if I denounce my faith,
they'll live.
Can save all these people. But
yes,
some people,
but I refuse to because
it's
my faith.
Right.
And this is what's kept happening. And this was that was the recurring theme within the movie, except for Ferreira's case, right? And he was the one that no. And then we're gonna get more into it because I know that you have more questions to kind of like build up to it.
So I guess my biggest question is, so on a personal level, what is it that captivated you about this movie? What was it that resonated with you and what you came away from when you watched the movie?
There's a scene towards the end. Rodrigues, played by Andrew Garfield, right? Now, there's two. I'm gonna hold on that one. But I first want to touch on Chichiro, right?
Kichiro, I think it is.
Kichiro is that. So Kichiro,
he was interesting.
Yeah, he was interesting because
tell us about him a little bit.
Yeah, because there's, and then I'll go back to the Rodrigues scene. Kichiro is a character who has converted into Christianity. All right. He was asked to denounce Christianity in order to save his family, and he refused to do that. as a result, his entire family was killed and burned, and he witnessed
that, right?
You know, so he ran away, and he, you know, the two priests, Rodrigues and the other one, find them, and he becomes their guide,
right?
And they go in to take him into Japan finally, right?
Right.
But when he's there, he keeps doing these things, right? Like calling the local governor to let them know, hey, they're doing this, they're doing that, and then he keeps asking for forgiveness,
right.
And the priest keeps forgiving him,
right?
And you know, and he says, I'm not gonna do it again. I'm loyal to Christianity. I'm doing this and that and the other. But again, he keeps doing things like turning letting them know, oh, he's here when they were looking for Rodrigues, oh, he's here. This is where you're gonna find him, and then they're waiting for him, and he's like, I'm sorry, forgive me, and Rodrigues forgive them. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, so it's like he's getting a hall pass every time.
Exactly, he's getting a hall pass. So every time he does something that is considered detrimental to somebody else, he goes to the priest, to Rodrigues, because it's the Christian thing to do, keeps, you know, during confession, you know, telling them, go do your Hail Marys and then you're going to be fine. And, you know, and this keeps happening and several times. And the idea is that that stuck with me is, at what point does self-responsibility come into play?
Yeah.
You know, because is it just as easy as committing horrible acts and destroying people's lives for your own self-preservation, watching your own family be killed for your own self-preservation, and you don't truly believe in this idea of Christianity. You're just doing it just to preserve your own self, you know. But the priest keep forgiving them. Where is the responsibility in that?
Right.
Where's the accountability when the priest sees that he's doing this, and this is what he's doing, and this is what his makeup is, that he doesn't really feel remorseful. He doesn't really want to repent.
Obviously.
He is only doing it just because he's doing it. And the priest continues to oblige. Then what is the point of that?
And I mean, he even did that, and it was a prime example of when he watched his family be tortured and die.
Yeah.
But then at the end said, okay, I renounce. I'm not going to do it. I'm good, because he renounced his faith.
Yeah, and there was a point in which, and I remember the scene in which they were all in prison, and then some prisoners came out, and the guards were shot some people, and it was Chichiro's, you know, his fault. And then after that, they were both in prison. He comes over to Rodrigues and he's like, "Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned." And Rodrigues didn't want to do it. He struggled to do it.
He did.
He didn't want to do it because he knew at that point, it's like, this man is just taking advantage of the situation.
Yeah, and he was taking advantage of Rodrigues.
Yes,
you know?
But it is in his duty as a priest, as a holder of the faith, that this is what he had to do, even though he knew that this man did not believe in what he was doing, and he still have to forgive him, right? So that's a part that kind of like stuck with me, that it was like, wow, okay.
So basically what you're saying is that your belief or your duty to your religion or your faith supersedes doing what is actually the right thing.
Yes.
Is that what you're getting at?
Exactly.
Because what he should have done has been like, dude, enough. I'm done. You know you're not forgiven. I'm done.
Yeah, but this is what the conflict in the story comes into, right? Because that is not the priestly thing to do.
That's what I'm alluding to, right? He had to do the right thing because he took vows. He took vows, the priesthood, and whatnot. So
now that, which leads into like the favorite part, which I have a
so that was going to be my next question. Is that so? The most powerful thing that happened in this movie, and I know we've discussed this obviously outside of this, our time here now, but that's what I want you to talk about, because I think that to me was so compelling, and it was very it brought tears to my eyes.
It did
because go ahead.
Yeah, so there's this scene in which there's these prisoners, and they cut a slash on their neck, hung them upside down, and closed their lids. Right, and it's a horrible way to die because you're bleeding out slowly, right, upside down, and your head is closed underneath the ground, And there's several of them. And Rodrigues is inside his prison, and he's hearing the screams and he's hearing all that. And then he is brought out to...
He's given an opportunity.
He's giving an opportunity to finally, apostatized and just let, they said, no, this is the... Now, he has seen a lot of innocent people die. He saw his friend who was there with him drown.
He drowned, yeah.
Right? Trying to save
because he refused to.
Because he refused to. Yeah. And then all the people just being thrown in the ocean to drown. And the people, innocent people after innocent people, they actually hung this couple of people. And they watched the tide rise and they drowned one by one.
Yeah.
Just because of their faith and their belief. Yeah. And they would have been saved if the priests would have turned themselves in, not to be killed, but to renounce their religion, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he has seen all this.
So fast forward to Rodrigues now.
Fast forward to Rodrigues. He's seen
these
all
people
this
that are suffering now.
He's seen all this, right? And then this final, the culmination, you have these innocent people with their heads underneath the ground, bleeding, dying a painful death, right? And what they bring out is a block with Jesus' face on it.
Okay.
And they put it right on the floor, right? And this is like Scorsese, like the beautiful, you have that voice coming out of nowhere.
It was pretty amazing because just to paint a picture for the people who haven't seen it or whatever. And I know these are all things. If you haven't seen the movie, you probably shouldn't be watching this yet. Watch the movie first. But what do you call that when you're giving away we hate it when people do that.
Oh, I forgot.
Anyway, but basically, they got the tiki torches. The ambiance is very dark.
Solemn. Yes.
It's very
everything goes away, and it's just Garfield
and Jesus' face.
And then the words is like, it's okay. Go step. Oh my God! It's like I think about it right now, and it gives me some chills.
Who said that?
It's the word. It's the voice of Jesus telling them that
you missed the whole spot before you got there.
Sorry.
You're too excited.
So the Japanese drop this block with Jesus' face on it. And they tell him if all you have to do is step on it, and these people will be saved.
That's it.
Right. That's all you have to do.
And he is crying.
He is crying. You could see that crisis of faith. Like we talked about in the previous, you see that right there and there, and you leave it.
And I want to point out here, because this is the point for me that really, we talked about it in the Crisis of Faith episode too, because you had asked me, what is God? And what? And I had said to you, sometimes I don't know if there is a God because he is silent.
Yes.
Right. And it feels that way because when you need it, oftentimes you don't feel that presence or what people explain you feel.
Exactly.
So in this case, what happens is he then...
Yes, but again, this is the reason why the movie is called Silence. Right,
that's exactly
why. Because Rodrigues kept praying for guidance and there was nothing. The whole prayer, he kept praying for guidance.
The whole movie.
And he wouldn't get anything until that moment. It's almost as if you have to see all this to realize that it's not the idea.
Right. Gave me chills.
It's the actions, right?
Yeah.
So when they drop that, it has Jesus' face on it, and the voice comes out and it says, go ahead. Right. It's okay.
Jesus says it.
Jesus' voice says it's okay. You could see his sense of relief.
Yeah, I cried.
Right? The sense of relief that he felt, and he went and stepped on it, and from there those people went up. But the idea is that at that moment, yes, he did apostatize, but this is the lesson of that all, right? This is the point of this whole conversation and what I took away from this movie, right? Is it really the belief and the idea? You say, I believe in this, right? Or is it in the action of what really matters? For instance, right? If apostatizing, but say, I don't believe in this, meant saving all those people that died, was that more important than the actual belief itself?
It makes you question, because I think that there are people who do things in the name of their religion.
Oh,
and they do very terrible things
in their name of an idea.
Of course.
And that's the thing. And then, but the lesson that I got away from that is that even if I'm just saying that this is what Jesus said, but whatever, but it's not the idolatry of Jesus that's important. It's not that. No. It's the action that matter. Yeah. The action that which you actually lived from that point of view. Mm-hmm. It is the action of which you are saving a life instead of upholding an idea. Because all those innocent people
would have lived.
Right.
And they still could have had their belief. Mm-hmm. But it was
it was the upholding of the idea. But and this is the part of which that to me it's the conversation to have, right? Because we live in a world of ideas, and there's no denying that. Ideas, perceptions, or things like that are really a lot of the stuff that drive the world. We live in a world of conflicting ideologies, mm-hmm. conflicting points of views, mm-hmm. but that's what they are. They're abstract concepts, right? They're abstract. They're not factual. Is your idea, when it comes to it, are you really going to save a person? Or are you going to choose this abstract concept? Or are you going to choose that instead of actually saving someone?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Jesus says, go ahead and step on me if it takes saving that person.
Right.
I mean, according to this movie,
Right.
It's like, that doesn't matter. That what matters is that fellow being is saved. Right? And it's protected.
Right.
And it's all that. So when I look at this movie, it is so it's emotional to watch.
Very.
Because it's like, you see the conflicting, again, like I said, you see the conflicting cultures, the economics of it all clashing. The idea in this same movie that Rodrigues and the other priests, they kept saying, you guys don't understand our religion and all that stuff. And the Japanese is like, we have studied your religion. Mm-hmm. We have seen what you have to say, and we have seen what you have done. Mm-hmm. We just don't want to do that. That's not who we are.
Right.
Right. And they're looked at as savages, but it's a Shinto Zen is a very it's a good premise and a good ideology on how to view the world and coexist with it.
Right.
But it's like the failure and the egotism of the priests not being able to kind of see that, as something that is viable, and then facing that resistance that a lot of other cultures weren't able to do. Right. In the past, they were able to face that resistance because their tradition and their sense of self was very strong. Mm-hmm. It took that ideology and that sense of a court, because again, if you look at Zen and Shinto, their ideologies differences between the Eastern and the Western hemisphere is one of a court with nature. Mm-hmm. And an understanding of nature. That's what Zen is all about. The interconnectedness of it all. Mm-hmm. Where in our Western society is the separation of things. Man is separate from nature. God is separate from nature. We are the chosen people. We are the ones. We have dominion over the world. There is not that balance. And then having to choose life, right? Mm-hmm. Over an idea, that was the crisis that he had to confront. And he needed to hear, that's when the silence broke. Mm-hmm. He needed to hear those words from Jesus saying, it's okay, you can step on me.
Right.
Because Jesus knows that I took the burden, I took the pain for you to save those people.
Which was the whole temptation of Christ.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So Scorsese does in those two movies, I think I always recommend them because they're, to me, from my perspective, my understanding of religion, it's really an internal search for you to find your individual as part of the whole, right?
Right.
And to see all aspects, all those different archetypes that you have within yourself, mm-hmm. Your shadow, your anima, your animus, all that stuff, your ego, those two movies are kind of like, to me, it showed the desperation of what it is to confront those things, and then be able to come out on the different stuff and still be tempted,
right?
And then still know at the end, it's okay. It's just an idea.
Right.
What matters is that you're sacrificing yourself for someone.
Right.
That's like the powerful thing to me.
It was a very powerful movie.
It is.
It was.
It is.
Definitely. Okay, so I know that we have to start to
recap.
close out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Recap.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to start out by sharing this verse out of the Bible. It's from Matthew 22 and then 35 to 40.
Okay.
It says, and one of them, a lawyer, asked him a question to test him. Teacher, which commandment in the law is the greatest? He, Jesus, said to him, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment. Love God above all else. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. Mm-hmm. So why this quote?
Yeah, because again, it's like we talked about this. What is God? Right? Mm-hmm. What is God? It's got an idea. It's got a person up in the sky. Mm-hmm. What is God? Mm-hmm. Right? So it's like, it's such a vague term, right?
Concept.
A concept,
yeah.
Right?
Both, yeah.
Yeah, but it's something that is, it's like unfathomable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's, when you start really thinking about it and then and again, looking from where that my crazy mind has been working lately, it's like you start looking at the universe and the vastness of it. And then there was a point of creation and all that stuff, right?
Did you say my crazy mind?
My crazy mind. Yeah. So it's like, what is God? Right. It is so much, it's like you could spend a lifetime trying to answer that question,
totally
right?
Put me on the spot last
right?
time
Exactly.
we talked about it.
So then when you start thinking about that, and I think God, we talked about God in the past were manifestations of nature, and it's nothing more powerful than the nature, the universe, and everything that makes it so, right?
Right.
So in the interconnectedness of it all, right? Mm-hmm. So if you love all that, right? Mm-hmm. And then you love your neighbor as you would yourself.
Love yourself, right? Mm-hmm.
How important is an idea, a simple individual idea or collective idea over life? I mean,
and we see it every day.
We see it every day
in rallies and
yes,
the things that
and
people
the
stand
hatred.
up for, and the yes, you feel that coming out of the crowds and what people believe, and what I'm saying is what it is, and what you believe doesn't exist, and so
the surety and the egotism was like that
they're sure
this is it, like this is it, right? This is the reality, and this is what is, right? Again, this is like simple words, and it's in the Bible. This is what people credit Jesus to have said. In Ecclesiastics, it says the same thing. Mm-hmm. But it's hard to do. Yeah. Right? And then we lose ourselves within concepts, within ideas, right? But then we lose that fact, right? Mm-hmm. We lose the fact that we are part of everything. Part of nature, part of each other, part of that, right? Mm-hmm. And yes, we do have to consume to eat, right? But again, it's like I go back to like a lot of primitive natures, particularly the Native Americans. They lived on the buffalo, but they had a buffalo dance, and they revered the buffalo, but it was their sense of sustenance, right? It's that accord with
they
things.
Respected it.
They respected it. It was sacred, to them.
Yeah,
but it was what they needed to survive as well.
Yeah.
We don't have that type of reverence for things and people
and each other. Yes, mankind does not have that reverence for each other.
We don't.
There are so many things I know. I'm ashamed to say this, but I shouldn't be. But TikTok. Mm-hmm. I mean, I see the hatred and the anger and the frustration from people all the time.
Yeah,
and I think to myself, wow, like we're human beings, and this is how we treat each other. Mm-hmm. Like, this is just sad that we can't overcome these impulses to stand on the things that we believe in so much that we would hurt or destroy another person. People do that all the time. People do that in divorces. People do that to their children.
Yes.
I mean, it's like common. It's common.
It's a disconnect.
Yes.
I mean, it's a real disconnect. Again, let's simplify. Let's say it's a disconnect from what this says about God.
Right.
It's a disconnect from that.
Yeah.
The idea that you're superior to another.
Yes.
You know, the idea that the idea
That's exactly it.
that a concept, that a thought supersedes our idea to coincide with nature and live in a sphere which is a mote of dust floating in the emptiness of space.
We talked
right?
about that. Yeah.
We
a speck of dust,
which we are destroying. Yeah, it's cyclical and all this stuff, but shouldn't we be taking care of it? Because this is the only place we have.
This is it. And the life that we have is the only life that we have to live.
And again,
not everybody's gonna believe that, but
and again, this is why that scene is so powerful and is so. But I guess that you have to see all the pain and. This is ironic to me. I find this part ironic because it wasn't until Rodrigues saw all that pain and suffering and killing and death, right, that his soul was just broken, that it was like Christ came and said, okay, you could step on me. Yeah. Just let it go.
That was deep. It was deep.
It's I'm putting the video in the description so that everybody could see it, but it's just one of the most powerful things. But again, it's like, are we going to sit here? Because I see some people, it's like, well, I guess you don't understand scripture. Yeah, but again, what's the point? It's like, are you upholding that idea?
That idea, yeah.
It's
that's
like,
that's the whole thing that you're talking about.
You're holding that idea. It's like, you're holding on to an idea.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So these are the three, just to recap the episode now to recap it. These are the three things that we need to consider when we find ourselves holding really tightly to our individualistic ideas. Okay. The number one thing is, in one way or another, all religions or spiritual ideas share the same premise. So can you just expound on that really quick, just briefly?
I wrote down here to respect our neighbors. At this stage in our brief existence, any idea that says otherwise needs to be strongly challenged. We need to be able to respect each other as in human beings. We need to be able to respect nature, which we've gotten away so far from that because we think technology is going to save us from everything. But I always have this conversation with Fred, our friend Fred Cole, which we are we have an interview and we're going to be posting the interview in a couple of weeks. And I always tell him this, we go back and forth and we always agree on the same thing. At the end of the day, nature will always win.
Always.
I don't care. We could get really advanced and we could do all that, but life always finds a way to remind us that we are a part of it.
Sometimes it's a brutal reminder.
Most of the time.
Yeah, it can be pretty brutal.
And if we don't balance that, if we don't understand that balance, it will be... Nature has a very, very destructive way to remind us of our place in the universe.
And it's interesting because, and this is a whole nother subject, a whole nother topic episode, is that people will often blame God for that destruction.
No.
And I'm just saying, another episode. Okay, number 2.
And then, and then also condemn nature like this is a natural catastrophe. It's not a catastrophe. It's a natural happening.
It's nature.
It's nature. This is what nature does. It's like just because it throws a wrench on our ideas and stuff. Maybe we need to understand that. Yeah. I just on a side note, I always think about the Seminole Indians here in Florida. They still around. Yeah. What happened with all those hurricanes that happened? Because they knew how to balance and how to live in accordance with nature. Yeah. And they still do. Yeah. It's just interesting.
It's awesome.
We could learn from that.
We could if we took the time to. Yes, of course.
There you go.
All right. Number 2, a question to ask ourselves is, as an individual, are you willing to sacrifice your mental conceptions, small group or personal gain like Rodrigues does to love your neighbor? That's pretty, Are you willing to sacrifice that?
Yeah.
And that goes back to what you were talking about confronting the shadow, your ego and sort of checking yourself in terms of your interaction with humans And then, of course, with the planet, Earth, nature, animals, etc.
I see the pushback here with some Darwinian smartass saying, well, that's not so Bible of the fittest if we care about that stuff. And this is not what, you have to understand Darwin, and that's not really what he said. Nature works. There's a lot of cooperation in nature that we fail to see. And someone will say, I don't have to look out after my neighbor. I have to look out for myself. Survival of the fittest, only the strong survives. And that is the wrong way to look at creation and to look at the way that we interact with each other, right? Because society and the advancement in human nature, it comes mostly from cooperation, right? More than anything else. So this is a foundational of what our new mythology is going to be in the future. The idea of combined cooperation in the midst of our cultural and individual personalities or traits or cultures. This is going to be the interesting part, whether or not we could actually do it. Yeah. If we could actually cooperate even within our differences.
It's a good question.
It is a good question. Yeah.
Okay. And finally, number 3, no system, belief, or idea can ever supersede life and the value of life.
Yep. Again, nature always wins. Ideas, they evolve, they change, they either stay stuck and they die out and they move forward. But life always keeps moving. Yeah.
And I think you can get left behind in some cases if you really stick to your ideas and are not flexible and open to opportunities. These are opportunities that we have to open up, to strengthen ourselves, to become better people, to be more. I'm trying to find the word.
It's to see a different perspective,
to respect a different perspective,
and to see that,
and to be okay with. Okay, we don't agree. I mean, you and I do this all the time. Okay, we don't agree, but that's okay. We don't have to agree on everything.
No,
like I like certain things that you don't like, and so on and so. And there is this fundamental, basic respect that comes from that, just that simple thing, right? It's what has kept us together for so long. We've been together for a long time. So I feel like when you allow yourself to sort of just let go and be open to the possibilities of the things the beautiful things that could actually happen as a result of you being able to take somebody else's perspective and show respect for it and say, not my cup of tea, but I get it. I respect you.
Of course.
Okay. It's this thing that we talk about with and I don't want to get into this, but pronouns and stuff. Like we feel a certain way about that, but we respect, that's how you feel. No problem.
Yeah.
I respect homosexuality. I respect
whatever you guys want.
Abortion, people who choose to get aborted, and what all the mainstream things that are going on right now. I have no problem. Just don't impose that belief on me.
But it's all ideologies, and then my ideology should be your ideology.
Exactly.
That's and again, it's like there's that's that part in which we still are trying to figure out how to truly communicate. And the question will be, to just wrap it up, just like that movie.
Wrap it up, B.
Right? It's like to wrap that movie. We are going to be humble enough and broken down enough to put down that ideology, step on it for the sake of the collective and saving other people. We're going to be able to, I'm willing to do that.
It's a great question. Great question.
I don't know.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Comment below with your thoughts and stay connected by liking and sharing this content.